Welcome to the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, where we don't take from insurance companies. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan Comstock and Mr. Ben Tuine.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. This will also be featured on the Navigating Insurance podcast and the Insurance Untangled podcast simultaneously. My name is Ben Tuine, and of course, I'm one of the co-hosts, Jordan Comstock, who helps me with the Navigating Dental Insurance, is tied up today. And then my good friend Naren is also tied up as well, unavailable to be with us at this moment. But that's okay, because what makes up for the difference is our guest, Jim Zenk. He is well, I don't know if you're a trained attorney, but I know that you went to law school, but what you do professionally is a CPA, but specific to that of dental. And I invited Jim to be on our podcast today because over the years we've sort of shared clients here and there. But I've always been impressed with the feedback from clients as it pertains to that of numbers and the fact that Jim and his team, sort of wear this hat of counselors and coaches to these doctors as it pertains to things like key performance indicators, strategies on taxes, finances, and things, all the things that you would want to know as a dental practice owner. And I just love the fact that Jim specializes in the space of dentistry in terms of his professional career. Jim, welcome to the program. Thanks for taking time to chat with us today.
Oh, thanks, Ben. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words as well. I've always really enjoyed working with you in the past, and I've had great feedback from clients that have worked with you. So kudos to you. I always enjoy listening to your podcast, and I'm really excited and honored that you would extend the invite to me to loop me in. So a little bit about me. My name is Jim Zenk. I'm the founder of Trident CPA Services. I have a degree in accounting from Iowa State University, and I went to law school at the University of Kansas. So I am a CPA and attorney. I'm not a practicing attorney. I focus exclusively on the CPA firm side of things. Recently, I did become a certified financial planner, so we will be building out financial planning in 2025 and beyond. In my journey following college, I did what a lot of accountants do. I went to work for a couple different Big Four accounting firms. I left those large firms, though, and started working with dentists a little over 13 years ago. I worked my way up, became a partner in it was a large CPA firm we had hundreds of dentists that we worked with. It was a really good experience, but over time I started to get some feedback from clients that they were starting to feel a bit more like a number than a name. And I thought to myself, like, this is not at all what I want. And so I had a chance to jump, and that's when I founded Trident CPA Services back in 8 years ago, 2017. The vision has always been to have a great place for CPAs to work solely with business owner dentists. And so when you treat all your people, as your clients as well, then everybody begins to feel more like a name than a number. And so we've had very good success attracting great people to work with. I've got other CPAs from Big Four backgrounds. I've got MBAs that used to work as CFOs in family-owned companies where they had to come up with KPIs in their industries. And so all of that stuff lends itself really well to working with business owner dentists. That's kind of a little bit about me and my firm.
That's awesome. Have you read that book, Networking with Millionaires and Their Friends?
No, I have not. I'll have to write that one.
It was one of the books that I read while I was in college, and I love that book because it talks a lot about CPAs, and it talks a lot about how the fact that CPAs, especially ones that specialize in a specific industry, they sort of become your best friends in terms of business advice because they're dealing with other clients that experience a lot of similar things, but you're all dealing in the world of very similar KPIs, right? Where you can measure statistics and numbers from clients to clients establish patterns. And then naturally over the years, you hear what the highest producing doctors, what they're being counseled to do by their coaches. and actually pick up all kinds of great education as it pertains to how the numbers tie into the practice and why numbers need to look the way they're supposed to. so, so check out that book if you can. It's a great book for dental. I've been referring that to dental clients saying, hey, you need to find a dental specific CPA, after hearing all.
Networking with millionaires and their friends. I'll have to check that out. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's a really great book about networking in general, but I love the tie-in on how it explains the value of a specialized CPA in their industry, which is sort of the question that I have for you is, I know that you work with a lot of dental clients. So, on that part there, Jim, why should dentists use a dental CPA? What are the benefits or reasons as to why a specific type of CPA, in this case, a dental CPA, would be better or more beneficial than sort of a general CPA firm that handles multiple industries?
Sure. So for all your listeners out there that are business owner dentists, once you make the decision to jump into business ownership, life becomes a lot more complex, right? You're going to need some help with an accountant getting taxes done. You have to maintain books. You kind of have two choices, right? You can either you can work with what I would call a generalist CPA, or you could work with a CPA firm that has some kind of a dental niche, or maybe they exclusively work with dentists. I've worked in both. Years ago, I worked in a generalist CPA firm, and we worked with pretty much just about anything that came through the door. It was interesting. I learned a lot. I worked with a lot of different industries. At the same time, though, it kind of felt like I was becoming a jack of all trades, master of none.
Mm-hmm.
And so that those firms tend to be very tax return or tax compliance driven. They do lots of tax returns. They typically charge on an hourly basis, and that's kind of how they roll, so to speak. Now, a dental specific or some of the bigger firms that might have a group within the firm that they just work with, like dental medical or dental. Those firms, well, think of it this way, it's a 40-hour work week typically, right? And there's about 50 weeks a year. So there's about 2,000 hours a year, working hours a year. And when everything you do is working on issues, tax and business issues related to business owner dentistry, that's a lot of on-the-job training that is just focused exclusively on the issues for business owner dentists. So
Right.
that's one component. Another thing that I would mention is it's just when you're at or when you work with a dental specific CPA firm, now all of a sudden you got some economies of scale in that the firm can make some serious investments in the dental industry. So I can give you a couple of examples. So for example, dental specific education is what is common here at Trident. Like, for example, last fall, I took my entire team, like seven of us, went out to Newberg, Oregon to tour the ADEC facility, all the manufacture of the chairs and all the equipment and everything out there in Newberg, Oregon. Spent a few days out there and taken my team to SmileCon and the Greater New York Dental Society meetings, and we've been to the DS World, Dentsply Sirona World. So I think that helps us understand better some of the issues, business issues or just the industry lingo, the terminology, and it helps us relate better to the issues that business owner dentists. So I think that's a distinguishing feature that your listeners might find working with a dental specific firm. One other quick thing is it has to do with some of the tax savings, like a real common thing for dentists who are reaching out to a dental specific CPA. The things I hear a lot is wanting to capture more tax deductions. And let me explain real quickly why it can happen tend to happen more often at a dental specific CPA firm. If you work in a generalist firm, you might have a one or two or a handful of dentists that you work with. In Trident, for example, we have about 120 practices. So there might be a tax savings idea that could get a dentist like maybe another $2,500 a year deduction, save him maybe $1,000 a year. But it's going to require some research. It's going to require some memos. It's going to require coaching and educating the client on the deduction and what they have to do to get the tax deduction. So, if you have only a couple of dentists, you can't afford to invest 20, 25 hours of your professional time trying to do it. But if you've got 100 plus clients, you can amortize that cost over all of those clients. And now you can bring that tax savings idea to them. So anyway, those are some of the distinguishing features between so that way your listeners understand the differences or what they could expect between a generalist CPA firm and a dental specific.
Right. Yeah. No, I can relate to that, Jim, because, for me, my profession, my first profession was negotiating and sort of getting into that world of negotiating in a professional setting. So most professional negotiators, they don't do general negotiations. It's very specific to a product or an industry, right? So as an example, I get asked to negotiate for chiropractors, optometrists, and medical doctors all the time. I know how to do it, but with what you mentioned about just the general understanding on how the industry operates, right? How the doctors operate, what does their day-to-day look like, right? How does my services impact the practice as a whole, And when I decided to specialize in dentistry, what I noticed is that my skill set increased because I was doing what you were doing. I was going to the conferences. I was learning. I was trying to learn about my clientele, And I never was a big believer of going to conferences to increase my negotiating skills because I don't want to be in a conference room full of people just like me. I want to be in a conference room with people that I'm trying to serve, trying to learn about what makes them tick, how to help them. So I appreciate you going through that. And I agree. We do see big differences on tax mitigation strategies with clients that work with specific CPAs that are exclusive to dental or work mostly in dental. You just see a lot more, right? You see, or at least you have a much better understanding of that specific one industry compared to a generalist where you're trying to understand tax mitigation strategies for different types of industries that might have different tax laws or different things, that they may or may not have advantage to,
Manufacturing or
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you a quick question then.
Sure.
Question. When you decided to focus just on dentistry, did you notice or did you observe that your business began to pick up even more? Like once you made the decision, like in other words, before you might have been, I'll work with these guys and these guys and these people and those, but the minute that you made the decision, like, no, only dental, did you find that all of a sudden, like the work just really came in?
Yes. For a couple of reasons. I think the number one reason, Jim, as to the sudden growth is because you had clients that were raving about you.
Yeah.
They were so happy at the fact that you were doing things that they had no idea that you could do or they could do or have access to. But that's a function of really being immersed in the industry and understanding all the ins and outs, right? Looking under every stone, just to see where are the opportunities, right? What could you create in terms of opportunities, and then how can you duplicate that for others in the industry, the doctors that are going to need it. So to answer your question, yeah, when at least for me, when you narrow down that specialized focus, and it's not just being in dentistry, it's like you have solo practitioners and you have DSOs. Those are two different animals as it pertains to what I do. It's like it's almost two separate industries as it pertains to dealing with insurance.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've noticed that even when we started to narrow down to work with practices that were 3 locations or under, and then referring out to our other competitors on the other things that we don't specialize in, the referrals go back and forth. So yeah, naturally you would grow the business when you're specializing in. And so yeah, Yeah, we did see growth.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like that. It's just that like it increases the speed at which the stuff comes flying through. That it's counterintuitive, but it's also ironic too, isn't it? That
Mhm.
you'd think like if you put the scope wide to taking on lots of different industries that you'd get more clients, but no, it works exactly in the reverse, it seems. And your
Yeah.
expertise, I'm sure you found that your expertise skyrocketed as you had so many more at bats, so to speak, and experiences that.
Yeah, I think it's a function of being like really funneling in on what you do well, and then doing it 10,000 times and 10,000 times over. Because as you do that 10,000 times, you as the person giving the service get better and
Yeah,
better and better and better. That's why more experienced professionals get paid more, is because it's the experience, right?
that's
But no,
interesting.
I appreciate you asking me that question, Jim. I do have a question for you though, as we're kind of
Okay.
talking about, we're talking about picking a dental related CPA for the reasons that we've discussed, but what are doctors missing out on in terms of benefits that they're not taking advantage of? Maybe we can focus on two areas: tax mitigation strategies, or tax bracket planning, and then fees. Can you address that in
Oh,
terms of what are doctors missing out on from a professional CPA standpoint? What are doctors losing out on in those two areas?
so you said tax mitigate or tax bracket planning and fees. Let me start with the tax side real quick.
Okay.
Um, So I'll give you an example. I'll speak in terms of an example. Something I think a lot of your listeners can relate to. Real common issue amongst business owner dentists is they decide that it's time to level up in their practice. Maybe they're going to make a considerable investment in, outfitting ops 5 and 6, or even if it's just like, no, I'm going to start using intraoral scanners instead of impression material. Or so they make anywhere from a 25,000 to a $250,000 investment in their practice. Um, what I see a lot is they expend all this money, and then the equipment sales reps they're beating a path to the door to the dentist to tell them and to extol all the virtues of Section 179 and bonus depreciation and how they can write it all off, and it's just enormous tax savings. And they're right, they're correct. However, the one thing that I see is there's a lot of tax preparers out there that you know, you're a dentist. Let's say you typically make, somewhere 400, 450, $500,000. You got a robust practice. Maybe you got a 1.2 million collections practice, million to million two, and you've got like a 35% profit margin. So yeah, you make anywhere from 400 to 500,000 a year, year after year. That's the thing about dentistry is dentists have the ability to make money year after year, right? As compared to dentists are not designing the next killer app that they're going to sell for $100 million and then spend the rest of their life on the beach. No, 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 no. It's a year in, year out thing. But as a result, every year dentists find themselves right back up in the 32 or 35 or even 37% tax bracket. So here's where the opportunity is you go out and spend, $60,000 on a piece of dental equipment. You don't have to write that all off in the first year. And if it just so happens that your taxable income is just, say, $30,000 into the 32% bracket, well, if you write the whole $60,000 piece of equipment off, you're going to get $30,000 of benefit at a 32% bracket, but 30,000 at only a 24% federal tax savings. So one thing they can do is what we do is we look and say, okay, no, 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 no. We're going to write off that $60,000. We're going to use Section 179 to write it off just to get you out of the 32% bracket. And then we're going to take the remaining 30 and we're going to depreciate that over the next 5 years because you're going to be right back up in the 32 or even 35% bracket next year. So now you've got $30,000 depreciating over the next 5 years. You've got deductions waiting for you when you're back up in the higher brackets next year, and you're going to get the entire, say, $60,000 written off at the highest possible tax rate for
Yeah.
you. So that's instead of just writing it all off in one year, the name of the game is not to pay zero taxes as a dentist. The name of the game is to stay out of the highest tax brackets year after year. And so that's the tax savings opportunity. The other thing is it's a big opportunity, and it's something that's right up your alley, and that is fees. What we started doing at Trident is, we subscribe to the NDAS, computer model or computer software, and then started sharing that with clients, with our advisory clients. And surprisingly, it's just surprising to me. I didn't realize this, the number of clients whose fees are not competitively priced in the marketplace. And they could be either fee for service or out of network, or they could be in network. Either way, they need to do something about it. And because here's the thing, as I explain to clients, is for every dollar that you can legitimately increase your collections, that's a dollar that drops from collections right down to the bottom line. That's money for you to take home. And so that's same amount of work, more pay. That's let's work smarter, not harder is the whole theme of that. And so that's where you come in. You know what I mean? Because I can't do any fee negotiation. That's for sure. I'm not doing that. So anyway, that's a huge opportunity. Everybody should at least be looking at that once a year just to see, like, where am I at? Am I competitive? Am I staying in? And this is especially since COVID. Ever since COVID, labor has gone way up. Everybody's getting, hygienists, everybody's getting paid more. Labs and supplies have all gone up. And yet insurance reimbursements have not kept pace, right? So the road to hell is paved with in-network bread and butter dentistry.
I love
No, it really
that.
is. Because they're getting squeezed. We see it all the time. They're getting squeezed. They're working every bit as hard, if not harder, than they ever have.
Yes.
And yet all their costs are climbing up, and yet insurance is not paying it. And the insurance isn't helping them out. So if something has to happen, they're getting squeezed. And so anyway, that's why I tell my clients, you gotta do something. You gotta be proactive about your top line fees. So anyway, so.
Well, you made my day with that quote. The road to hell is paved with in-network reimbursement. I'm gonna shout that from the rooftop. Put Jim Zenk's name. I got this quote from Jim on the podcast.
It's in-network bread, and it's bread and butter dentistry especially. And there's so many dentists that's what they do, bread and butter dentistry. It's in-network bread and butter dentistry. It's the ones that can do implants or do some cosmetic stuff. They can escape, or all on X, they can escape some of the issues by doing one big case a month kind of a thing. But man, it's the bread and butter folks that are really getting squeezed. So
that is actually a really great perspective, Jim. I actually never heard that angle before from a professional CPA in terms of dentistry and fees. But I know exactly what you mean, because you take the hygiene example. In where we live, hygienists' wages are $60 to $65 an hour.
Yeah.
And we live in a community where a pro fee reimbursement is barely $50. You'd be lucky if you get $60. And so you're coming out of pocket to do treatment, because it's not just your hygienist that you're paying. It's the team members, whoever's sterilizing the room, preparing it. The doctor doing the exam. So that quote, the road to hell is paved with in-network dentistry, in-network bread and butter dentistry. That is the truth, because you're operating in an environment where you have procedure codes that, number one, are squeezed with profitability, because the fees are just low to begin with on the in-network side of things. So thank you for that. I'm curious, Jim, you mentioned the number of clients that you're working with, and I'm sure you consult with doctors across the country that are not clients. What are some of the best characteristics of your most successful dental clients?
So success. what makes successful? Well, success is kind of watch out. That's a loaded term. Me as an accountant, I want to think success means money, right? Like making more money. Um, but that's not always it. Like sometimes success, like we got a bunch of clients that for success for them means to be able to go from 4 days a week to 3 days a week, you know, to be able to hire an associate, have the associate work, and for them to make the same amount of money, but reduce the hours or reduce the workload. So, but I would say like there are some common threads. The one thing I would say is that most successful dentists is they focus on the dentistry, the technical, they focus on the technical dentistry. And here's why. If you are, say you're a dentist, you got one or two, a couple hygienists, you got four ops, you run two columns, your hygienist got two columns of hygiene, real common demographic right there. You, the owner, think about once you've reached the point where you've paid for all the supplies and labs and labor for the month, and you know the rent, you're only, you know, the rent doesn't go up just because you do more dentistry. But think about it. The next $1,000 of dentistry that you do, in order to do $1,000 more of dentistry, you really only have to pay for labs and supplies, right? So about 15, maybe 15% cost. So 85 cents on the dollar is profit for you, the owner. So the most successful dentists get that, and they realize that their incremental income increases, that all the profit comes in the last $5,000 to $10,000 of collections per month. You see what I mean? That's where, so focusing on your schedule, and you know, like what I tell like my clients is, look, you, the dentist, you know, if you get a cold, the rest of the practice gets the flu. Like it is so critically important that you and you have to be the focus. Your office manager, your team has to be there to support you and your schedule so that you are always productive each day and not busy, but productive. Like I don't want 4 crown seats in one day. I want, you know, smooth out my workload so that I've got only X amount of energy every day. I want to be productive every day. That helps on cash flow too. If you're always doing something productive, you're always got something for cash flow coming in. Another thing they do is they buy back their time. You know, like dentists have the ability. Here's the thing: is we all should have gone to dental school. Dentists have the ability to produce and collect 5, 6, sometimes over $1,000 an hour. So you can pay for a lot of other people to help you if you can put those kind of numbers, right? So some of the more successful ones understand that, and so they, you know, they pay for professionals to help them and support them and make them better. And and then finally, they invest in themselves, continuing education, challenging themselves to be better. Here's why I mentioned a minute ago, with bread and butter dentistry, it's amazing. If you can do like what I call a big case, like I'm talking like a 20, 25,000, like an all on X, 30,000, if you can do one of those per month, that makes your month. Now, it's hard. It's not easy. I mean, you've got to invest in yourself and train and educate and have the mental, you know, the intestinal fortitude to venture into that. However, the more successful ones, overall, they can have a more balanced life because they can create enormous value in a shorter period of time. So,
Yeah.
anyway, I'm kind of prattling on now, but that's what I would share.
Oh, that's awesome. It's always fun to hear feedback from professionals that work with a lot of dentists. And so what you mentioned there, I'm very certain that listeners would resonate with a few of those things. You know, in the interest of time, I know that we're kind of wrapping up here, Jim, and appreciate
Absolutely.
you being with us today. I just have one more question. Now it's January 2025. Tax season is creeping up on us. You know, that whole April 15th is just a couple months down the road.
Right.
So I want to just pick your brain real quick about tax planning, you know, the importance of tax planning. So the question is what kinds of things should I be discussing, or, you know, if I'm a dentist, what should I be discussing during, at least with my CPA, at this stage of the tax preparation, you know, getting ready for the taxes this year and even planning for taxes for future years? What are things that I should be discussing with my CPA?
Well, I always like this time of year is frustrating to me because of the commercials on TV. Like there's going to be the H&R Block and the TurboTax commercials. Now, all those commercials give people the impression that to save on taxes, you just got to find the right guy who knows all the tricks. They know all the gimmicks. And
Right.
and maybe that's the case for wage earners and that kind. But for business owner dentists, we're talking opportunities with a lot more zeros behind it. And so sometimes tax savings things, they take time to implement, and it's too late right now to change what happened back in 2024. You can't unring the bell, right? So right now, we as tax preparers are kind of just reduced to being historians right now. We're just recording what happened last year. But here's the key. As soon as April 15th comes past, we should be focused on this year, 2025. What can we be doing? And the reason is this, like some of your listeners might be thinking, I've got a simple IRA. Maybe I want to do a 401k. I could save, up to 60 some thousand in a 401k each year. That's a lot more than in a simple IRA. Should I make that change? Now, a 401k can take 90 days or more to stand up. So you can't do that like in the last month of the year. You need to be planning ahead. So that's why planning becomes really important and I would recommend meeting with your tax advisor around May or June before you get crazy busy with all the kids and everything coming in the summer months. Meet with your CPA if you can in the May or June timeframe to do that kind of mid-year planning for any potential big ideas. So
yeah, I learned the hard way that that's important.
Oh no, did you?
It's like, January, it's like, okay, let's start working on the taxes and all that, and then CPA calls and asks me all these questions, and it's like, oh yeah, we bought a car last year for the country. Why didn't you tell me?
Oh, well, so that's the thing is, don't to the listeners, please don't beat up the CPAs at this point. I mean, the tax code's very explicit. You got to do A, B, C, and D to get the deduction. You got to do it in the year that you want the deduction, right? So they're not being sticks in the mud or being like, too bad. They're trying to be ethical and do their job. And so anyway,
exactly.
but be proactive with your preparer in the future is what I would encourage. There's a lot more money that could be saved.
100%. We meet with I meet with my CPA at least 2-3 times a year, especially when I'm planning on making a big expense and investment into something.
Oh, good.
I've learned that talking to them will help you understand, or at least giving them an opportunity to do their job efficiently for me as a client, right?
Yes.
And so it goes both ways. Our CPAs are less stressed when they know what we're planning, when we plan with them, right? And at the end of the day, when I learned this, Jim, I learned the hard way. But what I learned is that when I communicate with my CPA regularly, and they're a part of my business, they're part of our planning, right? Our tax mitigation strategies are significantly more effective, or at least we have one, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
Yeah, and it's the tax mitigation strategy for this year is ongoing. So you have to sort of always be in touch with your CPA just to make sure that you're not missing out on, writing a check to Uncle Sam for money that you could probably have saved,
Well, the other thing, Ben, I would point out, I bet your CPA, I would be willing to bet that your CPA enjoys working with you more than, for example, the clients that bring in the proverbial shoebox full of receipts and stuff, because they can actually impact your world. You know what I mean? And it's a lot more fun. I mean, we're humans too, believe it or not. I mean, we like to see that we can make a difference in our clients. And the other thing too is, if we're doing planning, yeah, we invest some time and we may bill for some time during the year. But when we know what's going on, it actually reduces the amount of time and effort that we have to do next spring. So it does all, a lot of it does.
Yeah, I noticed that when we're doing catch-up work, we pay more.
Oh yeah.
When we're being proactive, we pay less in billable hours,
Exactly.
Plus our CPAs love us because it's like, I wish all the clients were like you, because you're setting us up to be successful. So now we could capture this, and this for you, because we understand what you're trying to do with your business,
Yeah.
So, no, that's awesome, Jim. I mean, I always love talking to CPAs because I think CPAs just have some of the best well-rounded minds. You're great negotiators. You're just great everything. Business all around. CPAs are, in my opinion, are sort of a go-to profession just to shoot the breeze or at least brainstorm on business ideas at the very least, because CPAs tend to understand, at least from my experience, a lot more about any given business than most business owners know about their own businesses. So if listeners have questions, Jim, how do they get hold of you?
Number one, my website, Trident, like the gum, tridentcpa.com. You can also email me at jim@tridentcpa.com. That'd be probably the best way to get a hold of me, and real easy.
Awesome. For our listeners, I'll make sure to post that in our show notes so that you can click on that, especially if you're driving. Please don't try to write down anything at this moment. Just check out those show notes. Jim, this has been an honor. I want to give you the last word to sort of share any final thoughts that you have with our listeners pertaining to today's topic. Sorry, tongue twister there.
Well, I just want to say thank you it's a real honor. And then here's a pro tip for all of your listeners that are working with any kind of CPA. What I'd suggest is sometime in March or April, like if you go pick up your taxes or you have some reason to stop by the office, I would recommend either bring them by like a bottle of wine or some kind of treats. I'm serious. I'm not kidding. That $20 you spend on treats or something for the accountant or for the office, it's very special. It's very touching. And by that point in the game, everybody is just burned out and tired. And so, man, it's a really low bar, and you can put yourself way above the bar if you just bring by some kind of treats for the office. They will definitely appreciate it, and it's all intangibles, right? It's intellectual property that you're trying to get from your CPA, and it goes a long way when they like you. So
anyway. That's also a negotiating tactic as well, is to get people that you're working with to like you. They don't have to disagree with you, but if they like you. But on the vendor side of things is when we take care of our professional vendors, that we absolutely rely on these people. When we take care of them as the client, holy smokes, do they bend over backwards for you? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's this enormous amount of loyalty. I've never done it before, Jim, but I'm going to take some goodies to my CPA's office. He's only 2 miles down the street. I'm going to do that first thing tomorrow morning.
I promise you it'll work. I'm going
to give that a try. Well, Jim, it's been a real pleasure having you on today. This has been a real treat, talking about something that we don't normally talk about. And this is a relevant topic to all of us. Who's on the podcast today? Our business owners. So thank you. And if you're not a business owner, you still need a CPA. So
definitely.
CPA, yeah, our best friend, anybody that draws an income, no matter if it's 1099 or if you're an employee. So thank you again, Jim. And thank you to our listeners for being on the podcast today. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. And of course, give us a like, share a review on any podcast platform that you use. And then don't forget to, of course, give Jim some love with his contact information. Thank him as well for being willing to be free and share his thoughts with us today. Jim, thank you again.
Yeah,
to our listeners, yes, we wish you, Jim, and we wish our listeners the very best of success. Take care, everyone.